Hey all, welcome back to my channel. Boy, do we have a bit to catch up on. Itsuchi2 here. Welcome back. We've got some things to discuss. I've been busy. I've not been asleep, and sorry for the long delay since the last update. I am working on a big announcement. It's just a big announcement. It's not. Yeah. I'll just make that video when we get there. It's not ready yet, but there have been some things I do want to talk about in the game, not directly related to the big news, that I still want to talk about and show. The game is still progressing. There is still some cool stuff I'd like to talk about, some things that have been changed that I think just improved the overall quality of life here. Welcome to 2025, Happy New Year. Do not talk to me about what's happening in the US, I'm not here for it. Just that's my tea on that. I can't. I'm staying my ass right here in Australia for the time being until we figure out what the hell we're doing in the US. But politics aside, hope anyone living in the US is doing okay, despite what you voted for. Hope you guys are all right and doing what you can to manage. Now let's talk about Ultimate Clash of Ninja. I'm going to jump in to a practice match. Okay, we'll just do a stamina, because why not? Let's get our favorite characters that we've been using since the beginning of this project, Naruto and Sasuke for time skip. Right off the bat, let's just hop in here. There are some changes here on the stage select. We will talk about that in a minute. Let's go ahead and start this battle.
Begin.
Okay, so just a few things I want to discuss just as it starts. There was a glitch that some of you guys may have been aware of, where sometimes when a battle would start, it would load the scene twice, where it would start and then it would pause and then it would start again. This was a glitch. It happened most frequently when you're using the Dragon Blade Chronicles HUD for some reason, but it still happens on other HUDs sometimes too, and for the life of me, I could not figure this out. Well, I found out what the issue was by accident. There was an issue with the music looping, and so I will open up the script that controls the music loops to figure out what was causing and make some changes. When I discovered some old unused code from way back when I first added in music to the game years ago, and I was like, and I saw where it was, there's some code in there that loads in the next scene, and I was like, music should not be loading in scenes. And I checked the code a little bit more in depth, and I found, I was like, there's no way this could be the issue. So I left the line of code and reran the game, and then the next time I did the double loading, I was going to say, hey, if it was the music script that did this, just print a line saying the music script did it. And the line printed, and I was like, this whole time this game was getting ran twice, the scene was loading itself twice because of this music script. But the thing is, it was so inconsistent I couldn't track it down. So it turns out that line of code, that bit of code, was actually when I first added in the versus screen. Since all the seasons use a different versus theme, I wanted, and they're all different lengths, I originally had it programmed so that it would load the battle after that season's unique music was done playing for the versus screen. Then after it plays the unique theme, then it'll load the battle, so that way music's not getting cut off or something like that, or being on a long pause if for the longer, shorter clips. But I originally scrapped that idea and just decided to have it on a fixed load, because the music kind of just fades over anyway during the loading time. The music keeps playing, so I was like, okay, the music can just play while the next scene's loading if it's a longer clip. But I had forgot to go disable the other code. So the reason why it was only happening in the Dragon Blade Chronicles code is because I think it's something to do with the length of the track. Dragon Blade Chronicles has the shortest versus theme. So that means the Dragon Blade Chronicles theme would finish and then queue up the next scene, and then the main script would then queue the next scene, causing it to load twice, versus most of the other things are longer, so usually it would queue the next scene from the original script before that line ever got ran. So that was the part of the inconsistency, and just depending on how the game was running, fast or slow, would determine if it would happen on one of the longer tracks. So that was what was happening. Anyway, so I deleted those lines of code, and that fixed that issue by accident. So yay, the game will no longer load twice, saves on so much loading time, and just ultimately obviously increases the polishing. So yeah, that glitch got fixed by accident while fixing the music loops, and of course music loops have been fixed, so they should no longer, I don't think it ever happened in anyone's case, but in my case sometimes the music loop would stop. So I just edited it so that the music loop, I programmed in a failsafe in case the music loop failed. It would be able to detect that the music's no longer playing and just pick up from where it should. So anyway, that got fixed. The second thing is, you guys have probably noticed, we are playing on a legacy stage. This is not the Hokage Monument from My Leaf Village. This is a new Hokage Monument, specifically when that was ported. So essentially what happened was, way back when I originally started building this project and started importing models, I proved the concept with Naruto and Sasuke's, well, mainly just Naruto and Shippuden Naruto's models getting added into Unity. I was able to get the shaders working, all those things, get cell shading in, and I got that to work. And so then I started working on stages, but I noticed instantaneously the stages were not looking pretty at all. You guys may remember way back when, before I had the new Leaf map, I had a small number of stages in there in the game, like Tenshi Bridge, the Hidden Leaf main gate. I basically was only able to get stages that were simple enough to look good enough to pass. Every single other stage had either complex materials and just things that I didn't know how, they just weren't loading in the game correctly. That's why I couldn't add anything. So that's why I had to scrap everything and build my own map from the ground up, which I obviously never finished because it started to cause major performance issues because it wasn't well optimized. And then of course I just kind of halted on that, and I haven't really been doing anything. So obviously a lot of people have been complaining like the stages don't look finished, and like I'll finish them at some point. So when I developed EX mode, part of what made me develop EX mode was I learned how to, I was just messing around with some of the importing of the EX stages from EX3, those special maps, and I just wanted to see if I could replicate them, just to see. And I learned two things. I learned how to blend textures in a material, so two separate textures into one to finish a look, and I also learned about vertex coloring. So an example of this is actually right here in the background, the Hokage Monument. I can't point, but the rocks in the background are actually two textures blended together. I didn't know how to do this, or even that was possible when I started building this game, which is why I couldn't import this map, because the Hokage Monument was not loading correctly. In Brawlbox, which is how you view like Wii era models, the textures and everything loads fine in there, but as soon as you export it, everything breaks. So I just assumed it was something that was, you know, custom to the Clash Engine games. It'll load great in the game, but it won't load well outside of the game's unique engine. So I never bothered with it, and things that I would import just kind of, other than characters, were just kind of ugly. So that's why I didn't do a lot of importing, and I decided to build it all from the ground myself and use custom lighting to try to restore some of those details in. But when I developed EX, part of the reason I developed EX mode was I did figure out those things. I figured out how to merge textures in Unity's engine, which was allowed me to be able to replicate those designs from the EX maps, because they have blended textures for the grounds. And I also learned about vertex coloring. Vertex coloring is, you guys have maybe ever seen a model that doesn't have any texture. It's just kind of like a white gradient from white to grays, just showing lights bouncing off of an untextured object. Well, that's the base neutral vertex. It's going to be bright, which is the brightest color it can render with the lighting. You can actually paint a vertice, which is the model directly. You can paint onto it. So that's good for adding in details like shading. I didn't know any of this until recently when developing EX mode. You can paint those on and change the color. I knew a concept of it in the Clash of Games was here, because I know like areas like the Sand Village. If you guys have ever looked at the Sand Village game model in Brawlbox, you'll see it's properly colored. And then if you export it, you'll notice all the colors are gone, and suddenly it's got bland tan textures instead of the blue nighttime textures. That's all because the color gets lost, and that was not coming into Unity. So I learned with EX mode that is vertex coloring, and I learned that the Unity's standard shader, which I use for the stages, does not include vertex colors. So I did a lot of digging, and someone, fortunately, thank God for the internet, someone developed a custom Unity shader that adds in vertex coloring as a toggle on or off, so you can toggle it on and off. I can't show you in this mode. I'll probably make a second video, a small short video showing what it looks like, quality, the difference in quality when you turn it on and off, but it's a night and day difference. In the Sand Village case, literally night and day. It's what makes the stage nighttime, is those vertex colors. So I learned about vertex coloring when developing EX mode, and then I didn't think anything more of it. I was glad I was able to get the EX mode working. Well, in the last couple of weeks, I remember like, okay, well, if I have vertex coloring working now, like there should be few issues in me importing the original stages. And I kind of had the idea, and I was like, well, why not? So I just kind of started to play around with it, and I got some of the stages in, and they look great when I turned on that vertex coloring that I recently unlocked, and I was able to add in the blended textures like in the background, so that the Hokage monument it's a rock texture, like a mountain tan texture fused with a rock texture to give it like a rocky / mountainous look. So combining those two gets this final look. So I was able to get that done, and I was able to get the vertex colors in, so now the stage looks identical to how it looks in the original games. And then the original Clash games obviously had more muted colors, less saturated, so I'm using post-processing to brighten it up, give it more saturation and contrast, so it looks a little bit more cartoony, because I prefer a cartoony anime look than the just desaturated, muted colors of the original series. So the stages are looking more bright, vibrant than ever. I mean, just look at this. I think this looks better than Revolution 2, finally. Like, this looks fantastic in my humble opinion. So I was able to get these stages in. I also made light tweaks. Most of them that I've imported in, I try to keep them original to how they looked in the original games. But I did make some light tweaks to them. Like, this is actually SP's updated. SP updated the Hokage Monument, made it slightly more anime accurate, specifically with these columns. There were 8 skinny columns that were too short in the original game. They made them 6 fat columns like they're supposed to be. So they are slightly more anime accurate. The second Hokage got hair. They finally added hair to the second Hokage up there. So he actually looks like the second Hokage now, and not some bald guy. So all those tweaks I was able to add to this, but I also removed Tsunade's head to make it a Part 1 variant. And that leads me to the second point, which, before I move on, I also want to point out one more thing before I go. I don't know. Oh yeah, my computer's getting hot. Sorry for the lag. My computer's getting hot. The game runs just fine. It's just when my computer gets hot, it slows down. So in my original shader, when you would get behind a semi-transparent object, for some reason it didn't handle shadows correctly originally. If the object itself was shaded, it would render everything behind it shaded as well. And if the object that's transparent wasn't shaded, then it would render everything unshaded behind it. So if you're standing behind a column like this, Naruto shadows will not look right. If you guys played the current demo that's in there, I think it's 24.4 was the last major public demo. You'll see that if you stand behind a transparent object like this, the shadows aren't right. I don't know what I did differently, but now the shadows are randomly working just fine. I don't know what changed. I didn't really modify the shader much, other than adding in vertex colors. The shader did not have vertex colors, so I added in the vertex colors to the shader as well. So now the colors are correct even on semi-transparent objects. But that's really it. That doesn't affect the shadows. But yeah, just randomly the shadows started rendering properly. So yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, so just overall, 2 glitches were like fixed by accident, and Wii Stages are able to be imported. And I also decided to add in variants. So this was the Part 1 variant. If you look at the bottom, you'll see I added in a counter just below. I don't think I'll keep the position. I just added it there for now as a placeholder, just to show how many variants of the stage are available, so you'll know which stages have variants or not. So Hokage Monument has 2 variants. Ichoku Ramen Shop has 4, which is regular, daytime Part 1, night, and nighttime Part 1, which is basically just the removal of Tsunade's statue. As you can see, if I play the regular version of the Hokage Monument, Tsunade's head should be up there. Yeah, so that's not his head. So yeah, and same thing, any stage that shows the Hokage Monument will always have a Part 1 and a Part 2 variant. The next thing I wanted to discuss is water mechanics. Well, not water mechanics, but water, period. So first I'm going to go to the Riverside, and just another thing I did on the stages front of their naming scheme is any stages that have that are just variants, like time of day or Part 1, Part 2 will be combined into one spot. But, and also this is true for stages that are the exact same stage but maybe slightly different areas. For example, we'll go to Riverside here. Riverside and the canal we're in the water, these are the same stage, you're just on top versus on the bottom. So these would share a space. Same thing with the, where is it? The Leaf Forest. The upper and lower forest, it's just the forest. You're just in 2 different places of the same stage. So these would share a spot. But stages like Palace and Pillar Chamber, Palace, and I'll add the images later so you guys can actually see them in the menu. Palace is completely different, the outside palace, from the actual interior Pillar Chamber. So these are an example where the stages would be different on the character select. And of course Palace gets Part 1, Part 2 because some content is visible. But we're going to go to Riverside Canal. so I can show off some of the water effects that I've added in. So all these stages are full effects are in. The only thing that I haven't gotten to yet are the sound effects. So like you'll hear the music playing, and I haven't added in the water sound effects, so like background sound effects. But you'll see the water is animated now. The trees have leaves now falling in stages that have a lot of force. I'll add in leaves to fall. This is my first time. All water is custom. All effects are custom. You cannot port effects over from the original engine to this one. So any effects that you see of animations like this are always going to be done by me. So I think I did an okay job on this water. I really like the water here. On this stage, I didn't make it too crazy because the water is the main ground and there's a lot of it. And I didn't want the water being brightly colored to accidentally become too intrusive onto the foreground. So I slowed down the speed and I kind of lessened the highlights here. So there is glimmering, but it's very minor on this stage in particular, just because I didn't want it to overwhelm the foreground space and distract from the characters. And I'll add in the water effects, of course, too, so that way it'll be able to detect when you're on water versus on ground. So it'll play, instead of dust, it'll be water droplets. And instead of the tapping for landing on solid ground, it'll be a splash sound. I just need to I have to do two lines. I have to first change the collision on the ground to be tagged as water instead of ground. And I'll also need to program the sound effects to change based on if you're touching ground or water, play a hard sound effect or a splash sound effect. So I'll add that soon. It's not hard, it's just something I'm not focusing on at the moment. I'll add that when I start adding in the sound effects. And I'll show you another example of a water stage that uses different water effects that's a little bit more prominent. We will go to the Tenchi Bridge. Tenchi Bridge destroyed. And the water on this stage is much more prominent in its effects. See, this one has a much stronger glimmer because it doesn't dominate. It's just kind of the highlights. I'm really proud of this water. Let me kind of zoom out a little bit so you can see it. Yeah, look at that glimmer. I think I really like the water in this stage. I think I did a really, really, really good job on it here. Obviously, let me know what you think in the comments if you think I did a good job or not here. Also, Tenchi Bridge is in the game again. But yeah, I really like the water here. Obviously, again, need to add the sound effects so that you can hear the water and really bring it to life. But yeah, this one has a much more stronger glimmer to it. Yeah, that's really the only water stage. The only other thing I will showcase is three-way deadlock. Specifically, I'm not just going to use Tsunade and Orochimaru, because why not?
You've got some guts. Go on, entertain me.
Okay, where's Tanzaku Town? So, Tanzaku Town Up is what I'm actually calling the stage, because calling it three-way deadlock is a bit awkward because this will have three versions. Regular Tanzaku Town, I'll just show you all three quickly. Oh my god, this video is getting longer, and I still got some bigger things to show you guys. Just hang on a little bit longer. So yeah, you can play as, because all variants are included in here, you can play as the version without any summonings, because obviously the summonings don't show up until the last half of the battle. And this version does show up in the games as well. This is in the mission mode. When you play the first fight between the Sanin before they make the summonings, you can play in this version without any summonings. So I am including all the variants of a stage when I include a stage. So then the next variant naturally would be the three-way deadlock version of the Tanzaku Town outskirts, which just adds in the summonings. I haven't animated them, so they are stiff for the moment, because I'm just not doing animations right now for that kind of stuff. But yeah, so yeah, the summonings are here in the background, looking as plump as ever. I don't think we can get the camera high enough to see Manda, because Manda's just so big, that's what she said. But yeah, he is back there. Katsuyu. And my favorite, I didn't really like this stage in the Wii games, but now that I've done my own take on it, I'm in love with this stage. On top of Manda's head, I was not going to include the stage originally because I didn't think it made sense, but once I actually animated it myself, I fell in love with it. This stage obviously takes place on top of Manda's head, and the whole point is you're fighting from the perspective of standing on Manda's head. So as Manda's moving, the whole entire stage is moving. I added in extra detail to where the lighting's actually affected. So the lighting is actually proportionate to this stage that's in the background. So the lighting actually changes based on the position of Manda's head as he's turning. And I designed it as well to kind of focus in on the character. So if you just stand forward, you're kind of looking at from Manda's perspective. So here he's looking at Katsuyu before he's getting ready to attack, and then he kind of will pivot his attention over to, like he backs off to, you know, like be on guard from Katsuyu, but then he'll switch his, he'll remember, oh yeah, Gamabunta's over there, so he'll switch his attention towards Gamabunta. And it just gives these really dynamic views. And of course, if you look at it from this angle, you get to see Manda's massive body, that's what she said, in the background. And it's just super cool, kind of getting these two angles. From this angle, you're like staring at the sky in Manda as the sun's beaming down on you, and then from this, you're kind of looking down at the ground and the other characters, the other summonings, and it's just, it really gives perspective. And the fights look really cool as you're fighting as it's happening. I think my camera angles are just a little bit more dynamic than the original Wii games. I think that's what makes me like the stage much more in my version, is having it move so much more and around the stage. Having the dynamic lighting really change with the shadows so that the characters feel like they're actually moving through the sky and tilting and turning. So yeah, and also being more involved in the battle as Amanda is directly, like say, focusing in on Katsuyu or Gamabunta, depending on the moment. So yeah, now he's turning towards Gamabunta. So yeah, I just really like that about the stage. It's just such a cool dynamic stage having it, and of course I think it looks great. Alright, let's move on from this stuff and let's show you something big. For this one, I'm going to enter in dev mode. Dev mode's not needed for this. I just I like to in dev mode I disable transformations for dev mode. So if I want to see like two specific characters fight without transforming, I'll enter dev mode so they don't transform. So I'll just do a quick stamina battle between Naruto and Sasuke. I just don't want them to transform. That's all. That's the only thing I'm using dev mode for. And in dev mode, I have access to all my old stages. Yeah, but we're gonna use the legacy stage for this video. I'm gonna start this off with the Final Valley. I poured my heart into the Final Valley. This was one of the last stages I added because I just really wanted to take my time on this one and make it look great. I was not a fan of how it looked in the original. It was just so bright, and I didn't feel like it really captured the tone of the Naruto vs Sasuke fight, so I changed it! So anyway, let's look at the Final Valley stage and a brand new thing that's been added to just add in the polishing. That's why my camera's small, because I want you guys to see this. I'm going to just go silent and let the video speak for itself.
Get ready. Started.
How clean was that transition? Like, how clean was that? That was super clean. Like, I think it was super clean. Like, I loved that. I love that intro. I wanted something that was dynamic, that could pay homage to, it's basically homage to two things. One, it's homage to how originally stages, you know, when you start a stage, you'll kind of do a small rotation before starting that victory. But also in GNT 4, well, GNT 3 and 4, when you would do the do a team battle, it would rotate a little bit more with the characters on stage. So it's kind of a blend of those two animations of rotation to show you the stage, but also with the characters loaded in and a little bit more. So that's kind of the inspiration for that. And of course, in addition to the new stage intros that work on every stage now. Look at the lighting in Final Valley. I really changed the tone. It was so bright in daytime. I just didn't like that. I never felt like that really captured the tone, the darker tone of what was happening in this stage. So I made a couple of changes. All the same base textures. All I really did was I lowered the lighting in the stage, just in general, to give it overall a darker time of day, but I also used post-processing to remove a lot of the color from the stage, so desaturate it to really give that kind of stormy, dull, emotional, less happy vibe. And I also increased the contrast, again, that contrast, that light and dark contrast again, just an undertone for the fight itself, light versus darkness. And of course drama, it's more dramatic. One other thing that I did was I gave it a bluish shadow. If you look at the character, like look at Sasuke's shorts in the shaded areas, it's actually just ever so slightly bluish. This is to give the stage a more cold feel, but subtly. Just having a slightly more cold shadow than a warm shadow really brings the temperature down and the tone to more cold. This is not a warm battle between friends. This is a very cold, a very, what do you call it, ruthless battle. Like, these are two children. Like, these are, don't forget in this battle, these are 12-year-old kids. These are kids fighting to the potential of death. Like just not taking human life seriously. This is a very dark and a very cold battle. So just giving that slight undertone. And I just think combining all of these elements plus with the raindrops just really brings that music, working with the music and the tone just to really make the stage feel a little bit more true to what's happening here than they did in the original games. It took me a while to really get it to look, in my opinion, this well. Oh yeah, there's also contrast with the skybox. The skybox remains uncolored, so while the stage is darker, the sky's still bright to get this contrast of dark stage, we're in a dark moment, we're in a dark valley, but there's still a little bit of hope, which is the bright sky. There's some glimmers of light beaming through, which was from the original game, the beams of light, which is kind of that glimmer of hope, but it's even more so because you have, in the original games, it was still a bright daylight stage, so the light beams weren't really contrast. They were there, but they weren't contrast. Symbolic, but not contrast. Here, they're actually contrast. You have a dark stage with these beams of light. So let's rewatch. Man, Sasuke won. Let's rewatch that cutscene. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. That's one of those moments where I'm proud of myself. But anyway, let me know what you guys think on if I really nailed the lighting here, or if you prefer the original bright, broad daylight lighting from the original Wii games. I so much more prefer this. I think this looks so much better than the original. But this isn't the only Final Valley stage, and I did not keep the same exact feel for the second one. The second one, this is where the battle starts, up at the heads. Here, it still starts a little bit more positive, as obviously we know Naruto is still like thinking he can save Sasuke. So up here, it's a little bit less, less serious. Like, we're not trying to kill each other. You just didn't want to talk. They do a lot of talking up here. Once they get down to the bottom of the valley, that's when it's just downright serious, dark, cold, ruthless, where the battle climaxes. So let's go to that stage, to which I will also use Death Mode to access Ultimate Nine Tail Naruto and Second State Sasuke, because canonical fight, or canon fight. So let's go to the Final Valley. Lower. No! The slow computer ruined it. But, so this stage I did a few different things. While the overall lighting itself remains the same, in terms of the dark, grimy look, I added much more rain. There's more rain here, like a lot more rain. I may even add more rain, or at least make it faster and make it like a heavy rain. But, and also because you're at the bottom of a waterfall. So it's a mixture of rain and the waterfall droplets. This stage is, it is definitely one of my favorites. I mean, look at the water. I think I did a really good job on the water. Having just enough shimmer to be shimmering without overbearing and being too bright. It's still a dark water. The only thing I regret about this stage is, due to how the game is rendering characters versus stage assets, unfortunately, in the original games, they're standing in water. The rock is actually submerged underwater up to the ankles, and so they're ankle deep in water. But the way stages are rendered in this, unfortunately, semi-transparent objects cannot be rendered on top of characters. Now, opaque objects can, so if the water was opaque and not see-through, then yeah, it would be no issue. But because the water is semi-transparent, because you need to be obviously be able to see the ground underneath, that they're standing on the ground. It doesn't render correctly. The characters only render on top of the water, and this means I can't have an underground stage without it looking weird. Like the characters just kind of, yeah, like you can tell the stage is underwater, but then it's not covering their feet. Their feet are standing on top of it. It just looks very weird. So I had to make the unfortunate decision to raise the rock above the water level. So now this fight does not take place physically on the water. It takes place on a rock in the middle of the water. This isn't the final design. I mean, it might be. One other idea I'm toying with is I'm toying with the idea of actually making the battle happen on the water, because in the original show there is no rock. They're just fighting directly on the water. The problem with standing on the water is how do you mark clear boundaries for the start and end of the stage. That's what the rock was originally for, under the water. That's why the water covered it, because the water covered it so it at least kind of feels like you're on the water, even though you're standing on a rock that's slightly underneath the water. That's what they were going for. So what I might do is, y'all remember when they're fighting, they briefly stand on those logs, and the logs are kind of floating, and then when they stop back fighting, they break the logs. I was thinking about maybe making those stage boundaries, so having them fight on the water, and then having floating debris in the water, and then the floating debris kind of makes a natural barrier, and they're just kind of these floating objects, logs, rocks, and just kind of floating in the water in a semi kind of circular area. To add in some stage boundaries, so then you can fight on the water and still have clear defined stage boundaries. I might do that. The only thing is I'm worried about what it may look like, and like obviously with waterfall, objects shouldn't just be floating in midair, so I'm worried about what that could look like. But anyway, there I'm toying with the idea of that, changing it to that from the rock. But we'll see. The rock looks okay. Who's gonna win? Ooh, Starbucks gonna win? Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win? I kinda want Sasuke to win. Yes! So we get another round. Yay! Final round. Oh, this is getting good. Let's just finish this battle and look at the video. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of these changes. What you think about the stage trend, like the stages? Maybe I'll show a few more stage transitions or intros after this fight, just so you guys can see kind of what that looks like. But let me know what you guys think. I'm kind of getting into this battle, and this looks phenomenal to me. Like, I think this looks gorgeous. Like, am I being narcissistic? This looks phenomenal in my opinion. I think this looks official. I think the lighting, the post-processing, the rain effects, the water, the graphics, the character models, the shading, the lighting. Lighting is different from shading. Lighting is about the environment. Lighting, shading is about shadows. So both and. It's just enough contrast. It looks a little bit. It looks more cartoony. Like it almost looks like a low poly version of the Broken Bond. And because Broken Bond's models look a little bit more like Clash of the Okay, Naruto 1, not canon. Let's just briefly watch this opening cutscene again. Hopefully not in slow motion this time. That was sick! Guys, please let me know if I'm being narcissistic or if this actually looks as good as I think this looks. But I think this looks stunning! Oh, I think it looks so good. Okay, let's just check a few more stage transitions. We'll try some with team battles because it looks really cool in team battles as well. Let's do team. Oh, and I'll show you a Royale as well because it also does do Royale too. So let's do, we'll do like Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura versus Shoji. Let's see, what's a cool stage to take a look at? Oh, we want, Legacy Blue. Let's do... No, Rock Ramen Shop. Choji's got his unique dash now, so all of Choji's animations are unique now. Like, how sick is that? Like, to me, that is so cool. I love that. I love that so much. Let's try, we're grown now. And we'll do Team Nata. Peter. Nata. I think we go this way. What else can we do? I guess we can do a nighttime stage. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, I love it. And we'll do one more with we'll do Kurenai, and versus Itachi and Kisame. Who's Sharingan Itachi?
You can't hope to defeat me. Hope we can get acquainted later.
We'll go to the riverside. Like, it looks so good. It looks so good in my humble opinion. It looks super good in my very humble opinion. Again, let me know what you guys think. If you guys think I'm just being narcissistic, I just think it looks so great. And I'll do one Royale. We'll do the Dragon Blade next. Oh yeah, Kakashi got a new stance. I forgot to tell you guys about that. I just like this better, a casual version of Kakashi that's a little bit more comical. So his neutral stance now is this. It's him just casually reading a book. And then when you open up Sharingan, that's when it gets serious. I love this stance. It's just so interesting. And his book changes with his costume. So regular costume, his part 1 costume is reading Make Out this is Make Out Violence, which is the red. Is red Violence? Yeah. Red is Violence, which he gets shortly after, like he gets this right after the Land of Wayzak, I think. It's still a part 1 book, but it's later on in part 1. Obviously in Shippuden he gets Make Out Tactics, so this is the version of Kakashi that fights Kakuzu, where he loses his headband. Same thing with the Great Ninja War, future version with Kakuzu. In the Anbu, he uses a this like leaf. It's like I forget what he calls it now. What do they call it? The Bingo Book, kind of like thing. So he uses that for Anbu. In his latter Anbu days, just before he becomes a regular Jonin, is when he gets Make Out Paradise. So I chose this version to read Make Out Paradise, the yellow book. This is actually only in one Clash of Ninja game. Did you guys know that? Clash of Ninja 1 is the only Clash of Ninja game that allows him to read Make Out Paradise. And then from Clash of Ninja 2 onwards, he switches to Make Out Violence, which is the red book. And then from Revolution 3 onwards, he uses Revolution 3 and EX1, I think, uses Make Out Tactics. So yeah, all 3 books have made a canon appearance in Clash of Ninja, surprisingly. And he gets this book from Dragon Blade Chronicles, which is also what his Dragon Blade Chronicles version reads, this bingo book. But yeah, we're gonna get Dragon Blade Chronicles, him. And these 2, of course, don't have any props. We're gonna do Dragon Blade Chronicles.
Things are about to get interesting.
What a pain.
Alright, and we'll actually play at a Dragon Blade Chronicles stage. One of my favorites is the Ritual Hall! The Ritual Hall is the stage where you fight Kurona at the end of Dragon Blade Chronicles. Looking beautiful! Yeah. I guess we can watch it. We'll watch this battle on the way. This video has gotten way too long. Sorry guys for the long video. We'll finish this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments on all these changes, the mechanic changes, having backdashes in the game, characters like Choji, Kankuro, and puppet users will all have backdashes. Because more characters will, I also want more characters to have backdashes neutrally, and then everyone else will backflip. But also anyone can backdash if you just tap L and A and back at the same time. L or A and back at the same time. You'll do a backdash for any character. Backdashes are basically quicker but shorter range, while backflips longer, but they cover a longer distance, a greater distance at the same time. And let me know what you guys think about these stages, how they look. If you guys think they look good, if you think it's worth it. I think they look phenomenal. This game looks more official than ever. I mean, look at what we are looking at. This looks fantastic, in my humble, honest opinion. But let me know what you guys think. I can't wait to add more movesets. I still do plan on adding in my version of the leaf map, but I'll just need to spend a lot of time optimizing the meshes in Blender before I bring them into the game. And now that I know about the vertex colors, I can make them be more conscientious of that. And then even start learning about vertex coloring myself, so I can add in some colors too. Because there are some nighttime stages that I would like to be in the daytime, and vertex colors unfortunately block them from being ready to turn into daytime stages. So I would need to know how to change change that. But anyway, let's see who's gonna win, Sakura or Yamato. Oh, Sakura won. Good job, Sakura. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Cheers. Have a good one.